Assalamu alaikum. Research Basics 2. This is the second chapter in Research Basics we have in our course in critical thinking, creativity, and research skills. In the previous chapter, we introduced the research process. How research work is organized into stages and steps. Step number 1, setting the research problem, research, and then research goal, stating sub-problems, the hypothesis. We finished these 4 in the previous chapter. In this chapter, inshallah, we will discuss data gathering as step number 5, and data analysis, step number 6, and then in the end, interpretation and conclusions in stage number 7. Let's start with data gathering. In data gathering, actually, we collect data about previous research. Those who have done research related to our research problem, all what have been written in this and what happened exactly in the area we are studying. All right, you need to read a lot in this one. Okay, you don't start from scratch, right? You are not gonna reinvent the wheel. يعني مش هتخترع العجلة تاني يعني. You need to read الأول, and then your research will extend that, will go one step further. So this literature review, reading and covering, scanning previous research will give you understanding of what happened in the topic, all the ideas, approaches used, all the methods that would help you in the design of your research methodology, data required, all the measurement analysis, how are you going to interpret data, all these things very important for research. So literature review is very, very important and come in the very beginning in yours. Before collecting any other field data, you need to read first. In this area, you read, you evaluate what you read, and then you begin what you have read to be organized, synthesized together, put things together, right? So this is very important. Evaluate, organize, synthesize. When you evaluate, you don't never take other people's conclusion at face value. You need to be critical in what you are reading, and determine for yourself what does this mean. Conclude what happened and how your research will deal with these findings from the previous research. So this is what we mean by organize, synthesize, and evaluate before that. In literature reviews, you need to have some schemas for organizing your literature. You're gonna write a part called the literature review, okay, and what you are reading will be introduced from your lenses, from your perspective, from your schemes. So you write this according to your problems, your goals, right, your hypothesis. And it's an artistic part. You need to get inspired when you are writing what you have read. It's very important that you don't forget this. You don't cut and paste and don't copy. And it's so easy to be discovered nowadays using software and websites for plagiarism. There are different templates, different ways to synthesize and write your literature review. By comparing and contrasting, by some chronological, time-based one, show the approaches that have changed over time. So you organize this based on time. You organize this based on approaches used. The trends, different streams. You separate and discriminate between them. Contradictory ones, general themes, and so on. You should have some template, and then write in the end your piece of literature review. After literature review, we introduce here methodology. These are the methods you are using for doing your research. The most concentration in methodology on field practical work. Okay, so you're gonna collect data. these data about some variables you are dealing with. So in methodology, you need to define data. What data are you using? Variables are you measuring? And what data required to be gathered to measure these variables, right? In social work, this is complicated because in social work you are collecting data about customer needs and wants, and it's a complicated variable. How are you gonna collect data about this? So that could be data gathered by a questionnaire, asking questions, their tastes and wants about something, right? You need to identify this here. Sources of data. Are these data will be collected from salespersons or from customers themselves or from managers? So sources of data are very important. Are you collecting them from some secondary sources written in some documents? What are procedures for gathering these data? Whether they're questionnaires or collected by some observation, and so on. In social research, we have validity and reliability check for data. We will talk about them in some following slide, and then how are you going to analyze these data? So methodology, methods about variables, data to measure these variables, sources of them, procedure for gathering data, tests of validity and reliability, tests that you will use for analyzing such data. After methodology, we're still talking about methodology. There are two types of data, secondary and primary data. These are the two important ones. Secondary data mean data that is written, documented, most probably figures, statistics, and so on, written in a document, and you bring them. They have been collected before and made ready for you in documents. This is secondary. The primary data are data that collected for the first time from people. People are telling their opinion, right? Their attitudes. They are talking about their feelings. They're approving or denying something. So primary data, they tell mainly such human responses and replies to some questions or something like this, or something you are collecting from observations. Things that you see. So usually gathered for the first time. This is why it's called primary. From original sources, very close to what is called absolute truth. Main method used could be interviews, questionnaires, observations. The main problem in research is to make sure that if you are measuring some economic situation, the tool you are using, the variables you are using will measure this economic situation. If you are measuring customer loyalty, it's a complicated variable. So the questions you are asking for people to measure their loyalty will measure loyalty. This is what's called validity. Sometimes we use some techniques that measure something else, and we think that it measures validity. So we need to test validity. It means the extent to which it measures what is supposed to measure, right? Maybe you are writing questions that will measure satisfaction, customer satisfaction, not loyalty. This is different one. There are some statistical tests that help you test validity of variables, specifically discriminate between different variables you are measuring in your research. Reliability, it's another test that you need to check here, and it measures whether the techniques you are using, the variables you are using, data items of measurement you are using will be consistent. Every time you use the same tool, it will give you the same results. That is reliable one. So we use some statistical, some techniques, procedures to secure reliability of what we are measuring. So validity and reliability is an important part of methodology, research methodology we are talking about. After that, we need to explain what we have collected. After collecting data and so on, we need analysis, we need diagrams, we need statistics, we need to and look at them, reflect, ponder, try to give meaning for them. This is what's called data interpretations. Data, by throwing them, by putting them in our report, may not mean much to readers. You need to tell readers what this data mean, because you are the one who have read all the previous research, and then you can tell from research what does this means for you exactly. When you interpret data, you organize your interpretations according to your goals, hypotheses, assumptions that you have set from the very beginning. Your research should be organized, it should be channeled in these guiding areas: hypotheses, assumptions, goals, and so on. We don't have formula for you to tell you how to interpret data, but these are the general guidelines for you. After data interpretation, you need to write your research and plan your report, how will be planned. In general, when you write your final report, it should be clear what is the problem. You write them down: method, data, interpretation, conclusion in the end. These are the basic areas. We have different classification of the areas you need to cover: abstract in the beginning, and then introduction, and so on. Research usually written in a research report that is highly organized. After that, after planning your research report, you need to tune up, finish your whole document. So there are some front things, some front matters, and some end matters. In the front matters, we have some primary preliminary pages, like a title page that has the title of your research, your name, and the company you are working for, or the university, date, and so on. Copyright notice, abstract, some dedication, ayah Qur'aniyah, some acknowledgement to those who have helped you, and so on. You need a table of contents, a list of tables like figures, a list of tables, and list of figures, some preface, and so on. Also, as well, when you borrow something that has been written in somewhere else, you need to acknowledge this. You need to tell that I had this sentence from Ahmed, right? So this is called citation. You acknowledge this by writing the author you have borrowed your work from, author's last name, and then a date, and so on. You will find examples in this in the text, inshallah. Also, in the citation, you provide page numbers and so on. There are different ways to cite. Provide a research reference that you have used in your work, and then in the end you will have what is called a reference list for all the research references you have used, whether cited in your research between commas like this, two inverted commas like this, or have been used with your own wording. I'm sorry. So this is very important in research. You acknowledge your in-depthness for quoted materials. Otherwise, you are stealing other people's words. So citations and reference list, that is a list, come at the end of the report to allow readers to locate and use the sources that you have used. All what you have read in literature, in writing methodology, in writing interpretation, and so on, and should be written, organized, consistent. There are different ways for writing reference list as well. We will learn, inshallah, in the practical tutorial. When you are writing, right, you may would like to supplement something, add something, but at a side. We call this, at the end of the page, we call this end note. Right? So you would like to add something that is not in the middle of what you are talking about, but something in the note, as a note like this. It could be end note or footnote. This is called footnote here at the end of the page. If you provided this at the end of the chapter or at the end of the document, this is called end note. So it's a supplementary information you're adding to the text, but not in the middle of the text. You are adding this to strengthen discussions. And also as well, you may use it to acknowledge permission to quote for something. Also part of your writing could be an appendix that contains something lengthy. You don't want to add it to the main document. Some pictures, some questionnaire. Readers may go for it for further details about the document, some letters, some instrument, and so on. Most probably appendix is the last thing you have in your final research report. This is the last point we have in our chapter in research basics.